I think we're good. We can just roll with this as the intro.
Once more, welcome back.
Yeah, everybody, welcome back to the Gleemen. Jeez, we are just being goofy today. We're having a hard time really nailing our intros. So today we're talking about some Wolfy boys, everybody, specifically the Wolfbrothers and their place within the world of the Wheel of Time. Kind of ties back into what we were talking about last week with Tel'aran'rhiod, given that Wolfbrothers have a very special connection to that place.
As do wolves.
Brothers, as do wolves. Wolves have a very strong connection to the world of dreams. So it's pretty interesting to talk about and to speculate on. I think we're going to quickly venture into a lot of conjecture and speculation in today's episode. So just keep that in mind. We may just go spin foil on you and just start throwing them out there.
Should we? So should we start with? Exactly. Well, I mean, we did that last time. Should we talk about wolves a little bit? I mean, obviously, Wolfbrothers are. I mean, if you read the first book, you're kind of tracking, and you get the picture. Like, Wolfbrothers are people. Mm-hmm. We're just going to assume people generally, not just men, who have a telepathic link to wolves and share a number of their metaphysical characteristics. So, wolves in the Wheel of Time. They're probably unique, unlike my harebrained theory last week that there's every animal has a version of Tel'aran'rhiod. We know that wolves are very uniquely connected to the world of dreams. They exist permanently in the world of dreams. Each unique soul exists in the world of dreams perpetually, and I presume is reborn intermittently, right?
You know,
wasn't clear.
Again, full spoilers, everybody, for the entire series, as we always do. So, if you haven't finished the books, please click off now.
Because now we're full spoilers.
So, back to your point about the, about wolves and their rebirth in Tel'aran'rhiod and or whatnot. So it's not clear because we see wolves when they die, their spirit continues to linger within Tel'aran'rhiod. So we don't have a good image of what wolfy afterlife looks like, other than they do go to Tel'aran'rhiod, but they can also be killed in Tel'aran'rhiod, and I don't know if they can't be spun back into the pattern like human souls can. Later on. So these are questions that I think we don't have definitive answers to unless it's out there in an interview question somewhere. And, that's a lot of years of interview questions to go dig through.
Sure.
So,
the one hint to me about this comes from our knowledge that wolves know the general shape, though not the specific details of all of wolf history, which since history in the Wheel of Time is cyclical, they have a general sense of all of history, the entire cycle of history.
And that's an interesting point to bring up as well, because that kind of plays into the theories of like quote unquote genetic memory, right? That we have actually existing in our world, whether or not they have any proof or validity, that's a different discussion, but the theory exists out there that within humans we have quote-unquote genetic memory, and that's, I think, mostly people it's used as a theoretical framework about instinctual habits within populations. So it's maybe not even be specific to humans. I'm not super well versed on it, and I'm not a biologist, so Drew, you have a bit more authority to speak on this than I do.
I really wish people called it epigenetic memory, because we're pretty much absolutely certain that personal subjective experiences are not directly encoded into your actual genome, your core genome, because we would see that. We would actually see your genes changing over time. So epigenetic memory would be a better nomenclature, assuming this phenomenon exists.
Yes.
I'm fascinated by instinct. Like how is it conveyed? How is it learned and refined? You know, the animals have amazingly complex behaviors inborn into them. And I'm pretty sure we've seen them change. You know, I'm pretty sure we've seen instinctive behaviors that these animals will display without obviously having ever been taught, you know, by humans or other members of their species.
Well, I think that plays
We've
into
seen them make
when,
new behaviors.
Yes, exactly. I was going to bring up the fact that, you know, like we see that play into primates using tools, or like the Galapagos finches using twigs to pinch grubs out of holes, right? Like, I mean, tool utilization, I think, would be an example of this, because that's clearly not something they developed as, you know, species and subspecies knowing how to do. That's a picked up behavior over time. And we see this throughout human history as well, like relating it back to there, that humans, it's technological progress at that point, right? Which is what we consider a hallmark of higher functioning, for you know, lack of a better term there. But bringing it back to wolves, I mean, we know that wolves instinctually have strong social structures, and that's displayed within the Wheel of Time. Very, very well.
Definitely.
They have packs, families, you know, all that stuff, and then all of the wolves.
I mean, in the real world, canids probably have nearly, I'm not gonna say second, man, like orcas and dolphins. Holy crap!
Well, and crows and magpies as well.
Well, no, I'm not talking about raw intelligence. I'm talking about social. Social structure.
Yeah, crows are a familial bird. They stay within a family. So I was just gonna throw that.
Oh, I'm not even aware of that. Wow.
Yeah.
Got a lot of reading to do.
I do have a bone to pick with Jordan on crows in the Wheel of Time. He just falls into the old trap that they're just evil, and he does it with
it's the carrion thing.
Yeah, but I mean, they're just opportunistic, right? Like, it's not like.
Oh, sure.
Anyway, we're getting off topic. Let's get back to the Wolfie boys, tying it back to the epigenetic memory that they seem to display within the Wheel of Time that you're talking about. I'm gonna assume that it's actually less biological and probably more spiritual or metaphysical, connected to
definitely
to something of the one power, right, or the true source. So,
I don't think so. I don't think the wolves.
I'm not saying they have a direct connection to that, but I'm saying because, you know, the true source and one power are the underlying, like, drivers of the wheel as it spins.
Do you think everything? Do you think all metaphysics are driven in some sense by the source?
I mean, yes, I do think that. So
okay.
I also think the source is separate, like, metaphysically from the creator, but that's another video topic.
Yeah, the wolves' long memory is not specific. They seem to remember the shape of all ages, including that in the most primitive times, wolves and men probably more commonly ran together, far more commonly than there being just 3 wolf brothers around at a time, all the way to current. You know, they seem to remember time. They obviously remember times when there was not the one power. They say they remember a time from before the power, but cyclically we know that just means, you know, when there isn't, because every time is before and after every other time. So yeah, I mean, to this question, maybe wolf souls are reborn and they hang on to the bones of their kind of eternal memory, the repeating patterns, or maybe they just inherit that through their connection to Teller and Riyadh.
Right.
It's unclear.
Yes, it's not made clear, and everything about wolves is unclear, right? Like, we know so little about how wolf brothers work, and it's part of the world I think Jordan maybe would have expanded on had he lived long enough to do so, because I think it was always one of the most popular elements of the Wheel of Time was, and it's definitely one of the things people bring up when they talk about Perrin, is that they like his connection to the wolves. They think that's awesome. You know, it's just other aspects of his character arc they have issues with. So, yeah, the wolves.
Well, I mean,
good.
look at the way
wolves are good, right?
Yeah. Look at the way wolves navigate the world of dreams in an unparalleled manner.
Right.
You know, the dream shards we see the Forsaken use almost ubiquitously early in the books. You know, Ishamael constantly is dragging the boys into weird dream shards.
Right.
Lanfear loves them. And so, and yet, the Forsaken even meet together in dream shards that they've created, which we really should have talked about dream shards last week. A dream shard is a place it's a piece of Tel'aran Riyadh that is not that's not part of the real world. You just made a new place altogether, like out of whole cloth from your mind. So it's in the metaphysics of Tel'aran Riyadh, but you made it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could do a whole episode on dream shards down the road.
Sure.
There's a lot to unpack there. So
yeah, the wolves. At one point, Hopper brings Perrin to, you know, kind of right outside of a place in Tel'aran Riyadh or a dream shard thereof, where the Forsaken are meeting. So it's like the wolves are so adept at prowling, maybe is the best way to say it. Tel'aran Riyadh,
much like they would be kind of in the real world.
Yeah. I mean, they're hunters, so instinctively it makes sense that they would be so aware, you know, and so able to navigate and sniff out people.
Well, I mean, I think the only Forsaken and other being that the wolves kind of fear are like Lanfear and Slayer, right? So they're the only other two that really have such a control of the world of dreams that the wolves are specifically, you know, kind of hesitant to even be around where they're at. So. Yeah.
I mean, one can argue that Mohegan...
Call her Mogi.
So, Mogi arguably, and I think with good evidence, is more adept than Lanfear. She freaking rips a Ta'veren out of the world of dreams back into the real world. So, I think it's arguable she's more adept in Tel'aran Riyadh than even Lanfear.
Could be.
But she's so low-key, she's probably not on the wolves' radar.
Right, yeah. I mean, that was her whole point, right? She was always in the background being a spy.
The
basically.
spider.
Yeah. So,
right.
But
the wolves, I mean, their knowledge of and navigation of Tel'aran Riyadh probably unparalleled.
I would agree with that. You know, for the most part, in terms of everyone else we see that we get, like, you know, POVs from, the wolves are much better than them until Perrin basically unleashes his inner wolf and you know, stops fighting with himself internally.
Yeah. But unlike the dreamers, the wolves don't try and change the world of dreams. The wolves view themselves as the wolves behave as a part of the wolf dream, the world of dreams.
Right.
You know, they really seem to always accept the dream as it is. You know, characteristically, we see humans constantly imposing their will and views upon the world of dreams.
Right. I think the wolves even comment upon that humans feel the need to change something to fit their view of the environment, whereas the wolves would just change themselves or patterns to fit the environment. So there's a bit of that difference there, which I think is kind of like you know, the marker of like beast in humanity, right? Almost. So not saying the wolves don't display humanity, because in some instances they can display more humanity than some humans in the entire series, but
fair.
You know.
But actually, this brings up the point of, to me, why I think the wolves hate the Shadow Spawn so much. The Trollocs, and especially the Myrddraal. Because on surface level, it feels kind of arbitrary. Like, oh, wolves are cool, and those monsters are the bad guys. They should hate each other.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the way it is at the early stages of the series, right?
Yeah. But the more we learn and the more we find out about the wolves, their relationship to the world of dreams, and the way we see them, like many things Jordan puts in a somewhat zen-like state of acceptance of the world and navigating through the world. And correct me, if I'm misappropriating some of that philosophy.
I would argue it's more Taoist than inherently Zen. But I mean, Zen is Buddhism and Taoism kind of syncretized. So anyway, continue on.
No, that's good. That's why. Yeah, I'm glad you're here. It makes sense the wolves would find reprehensible creatures who are fundamentally unnatural.
Right.
They're not unholy. That's got a lot of religious baggage. They're a very inappropriate and reprehensible amalgamation of man, which is a thing the wolves acknowledge and accept, and nature, something the wolves are a part of, kind of a Taoist part of.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So,
and then Myrddraal are the essence of that.
Right.
Awfulness.
Yeah. I think that's a good point to bring up too, about how the reason they hate Shadowspawn so much. They're inherently unnatural, right? They don't arise from nature. They arise from messing with humans and animals and the power.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. So yeah, that's a really, really good point to bring up.
I guess they would hate the Dark One. The Dark One being embodied nihilism. I could see them. They're antithetical to the Dark One by virtue of accepting and appreciating existence and his loathing existence.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So there's something there as well.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's another good call out that I wasn't even thinking about that. So.
But there's wolves way down the rabbit hole, or the wolf den on wolves.
Way down the rabbit hole. Now back to what you mentioned earlier, where you mentioned they have the memory of running with men. Far into the past. That's going to bring us on to our Wolf Brother boys, Perrin, Elias,
Wolf boys,
and Gnome. Yep. So they form kind of an equilateral triangle of the acceptance levels of being a Wolf Brother, right?
That's exactly the model I had in my head.
Yeah. So if you look at, let's just start with Elias down in the bottom left. He is still a human. He identifies as a human, but
do you like your triangles flat side down? Because I like mine point down.
Ooh, oh yeah, I like mine flat side down. This is something we never talked about. Yeah. I like it.
In the comments, tell us which way you like your triangles.
Yes, this is important. This is highly important. What side do you like a triangle? Do you like point up, point down? Let us know. It's highly valuable information. And don't let anyone tell you you're wrong either.
I'll tell you you're wrong.
Well, I'll tell you you're wrong.
You're wrong.
You're a point down or you're wrong.
All right, fight me.
Yep. Anyway, so yeah, if my triangle's point orientation is up, Elias is down in the bottom left corner, and as a human he still identifies as a human, but he's recognized he has this connection with wolves, and because of his connection with wolves, he feels more disconnected from humans now. So in order to feel comfortable, he spends his time out in the wilds. He's kind of displayed. I mean, I always view Elias as basically Davy Crockett or Daniel Boone with
definitely
American frontiersman style clothing and a coonskin cap, all that stuff. So that's kind of just how I pictured him. And
side note, Elias's very quirky and somewhat abrupt sense of humor really cracked me up when I was reading through the first time.
Yeah. It's weird. I feel like there's almost a little bit of classic John Wayne in there, right? Like some of that Western snarkiness from those old movies. Whether or not I would never say John Wayne would be a good fit for Elias. I don't think he would be, but just that kind of the timbre of the character a little bit. Reminded me a bit of the main characters John Wayne used to play. So
very confident.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would be surprised if Jordan wasn't pulling from old westerns for the inspiration for Elias. Anyway, back to his social cutoff.
So he's
he is he spends all of his time out in the wilds. He doesn't venture near humans. He tries to avoid them as much as he can, because he knows that they don't understand what he is. They're not going to understand what he is. They don't want to take the time to understand. The wolves inherently understand what he is, even though he still identifies as a man. He's going to.
But he has good reason to feel that way.
Yes, he does. Yeah, that's true, which we can get into in just a second. So he just prefers to hang around the wolves because they inherently understand what he is, and they accept him as a wolf brother. With the wolves, there's no you don't have to be a wolf to feel acceptance with them. They're just kind of, I'm not gonna say happy, but indifferent at first to wolf brothers a little bit, as they,
but very curious.
Curious at least, but not fully. They're always kind of skeptical of humans, I think, in any facet, specifically because they get killed anytime they run near human gatherings of humans, which is taking it back to Elias, similar mindset there. He's got some of that wolf weariness around people.
It's almost like the wolves are nature to some degree in Jordan's world,
very
or view.
Very indicative of the natural order of things, and their health and presence, their presence kind of indicates that things are in balance in that area, right? There's enough of an ecosystem to support a hunter-prey relationship. There's the wolves can roam around with enough room to not worry about being killed for nearing too close to sheep or any other kind of livestock. This kind of, there's probably flowing water, for example. So there's
abundance
theme. There's this theme of the natural world is in order whenever wolves are present.
Definitely.
Yeah. So
again, which is why I think they hate shadow spawn.
Yes, because they're complete. Well, I mean, the blight is also a good example of that. It's a 100% corruption of the natural order. So
yeah. Do you think if a wolf peed on every tree in the blight, it would go away?
No.
Okay, it's worth a shot.
I don't think wolves are that powerful, but if they were, boy, whoo.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Elias I'll give you your flat down equilateral. Mm-hmm. If Elias is a man, identifies as a man who prefers wolf society on your bottom left, give me the other two.
Right. So on our bottom right, we're going to have Noam, who is another wolf brother we meet a little bit later on in The Dragon Reborn. And we meet him in a cage because his family thinks he's gone just mad, so they've locked him up. And he appears from the human perspective to just be raving almost, right?
Yeah.
He's
not your neurotypical schmuck.
Right. And it's not until Perrin encounters him and gets a little bit closer to him that he realizes what's going on, right? He senses that Noam is a wolf brother in actuality, and that he would have rather given himself over to the wolf nature than be. It's a point for Perrin, because Perrin's having mixed feelings about being a wolf brother. So Noam is his first. If Elias is his first example of being a wolf brother, Noam is his second example of what can happen if he gives in to the wolf too strongly, right?
Well, and Perrin actually touches Noam's mind, right?
I haven't reread Dragon Reborn yet, so I'm coming up on that in my reread. It's been
I
years
really
since
might be
I read
making
that
this up. I really might be making this up, but there's no telepathic connection between Perrin and Elias. I mean, their communication is strictly man to man, as with everyone else.
But
I think that Perrin actually touches Noam's mind in the way he would touch a wolf.
Right, I think so. But that's indicative of Noam giving himself fully over to the wolf, right?
Right.
Like he
Noam
is
spiritually
a wolf as
is a
far as
wolf.
he's concerned. Yeah.
Yeah.
So exactly.
That's the distinction between he and Elias.
Right. Yeah. Whereas Elias is still a man.
Yeah. I mean, we're milking a lot out of Noam, but frankly, narratively, Noam is there to show us what could become a Perrin.
Right. Yeah.
To give some stakes to Perrin's struggle.
Mm-hmm. Especially early on, because I mean, Jordan still didn't know where he was gonna go with everyone's story, right? Like, you know, he changed things as he felt that it would better serve the story and the characters. So
right.
You know, we have
Elias
that element to this,
and if Elias and Noam are kind of on this spectrum of being a man among wolves and being a wolf in a man's body.
Yes.
Where does Perrin go?
So at the top of our equilateral triangle, we have Perrin, who I call our balance boy. And he is a full-on representation of how to strike the balance. It's what his character arc is all about, for the most part, when he's not chasing Fael. So, anyway.
That's what I have to say about that story arc.
Hey, okay. We'll rag on it another video. Anyway,
we will.
Specifically about Perrin's struggles with wolves at this point. So, so Perrin, you know, early on in Eye of the World finds out, hey, I'm a wolf brother, and he starts talking to wolves. He meets Hopper, who, you know, throughout the story becomes kind of his wolf brother mentor along with Elias.
Yeah.
So Hopper is his wolf mentor, and Elias is his man mentor, like his human mentor. And it's because he has a relationship with these two characters, he is eventually able to strike the balance, right? Like,
yeah.
And it is also through the relationship with Hopper that he eventually realizes that the wolf and the man don't have to be 100% separated, because there is a little bit of both in each, right? Like, and that goes back to earlier when I said the wolves display some, like, in instances, more humanity than some of the human characters in the show.
Right.
It is an interesting balance, I think, with Perrin, and I personally enjoyed this element of his story arc as he constantly struggled and came to terms with it, and I think that it is to me, it's indicative of growing up a little bit and maturing constantly.
Okay.
That's kind of what I got out of it, you know, because when I was younger, I thought Perrin was going to be so cool with the wolf brother, but then he kind of, you know, went, oh, I just don't want to be a wolf brother. I don't want to have cool magic powers. And then he went on the whole I don't want the responsibility thing. But I think as everyone grows up, you kind of struggle with those themes through your life, right? Like coming into your own, taking on more and more responsibility throughout your life. It's hard to say I want to be the person who's in charge of the thing and take on all the responsibility of the thing, whatever that is. Whether it's, you know, leading a team at your workplace, or being the head of a family, or supporting a family in some regard, right? Like, you don't have to necessarily be a head of a family. That's kind of antiquated of me to say, so I apologize. But supporting a family, starting a family, that's
bear the burden of a family.
Yeah, bear the burden. There's bear the burden of, you know, friendships. You know, are you the leader of your friends in some sense? You know, do you have friends who struggle to keep it together,
right,
and you're kind of their anchor to help, you know, keep them focused. So,
you know, Perrin embodies, I think, a classic struggle with how to view and conceptualize leadership, whether leadership is a top-down or a bottom-up. Like, if you're responsible, does a leader have authority over the ones he's leading, or does a leader bear the responsibility for the people he's leading?
Yeah.
And I think Perrin has very broad shoulders. I mean, you know, Perrin has very broad shoulders in personality, in heart, to bear people. I don't think he struggles with that I don't think he struggles to be willing to bear responsibility for others, but just bearing responsibility for others isn't leading. You actually have to have both aspects.
Right.
It's not that one is good and one is bad. We're prone to that thinking, probably because we see a lot of abuse where people want to have authority, but they don't want to bear.
Right.
And then the people willing, like early Perrin, people who are willing to bear others, but won't exercise the authority that matches it, are being used and abused, and they burn out.
Right.
And so I feel like Perrin grew into the balance of that. He thinks he must be either a wolf or a man.
Right.
But there's something that is both. Or he thinks he must be a simple blacksmith, a very deliberate, straightforward, simple blacksmith, or the kind of political lord that he sees elsewhere. But there's something else that is both. And I think by the end of the book, we see him become what is both in both respects and worlds. He becomes a man who is a wolf comfortably by the last battle.
Right.
And he also becomes a lord who is bold, simple, and direct, not political.
Correct.
By the end.
So, yeah, that's really good. And so we see him now at the top of our equilateral triangle, which we're coming back to. So we have our three.
We're back to
our 3 points on the Wolfbrothers scale that are represented, or our 3 points on the Wolfbrother triangle, not scale, that are represented within the Wheel of Time. And again, this is a super small sample size, so there's probably
there are optionally more points on this polygon.
Yes, dodecahedron. So, man, shapes. Anyway.
If we get a sufficiently large sample size, we'll be approximating a full circle of Wolf Brotherhood.
Well, yeah, like I said, a spectrum at that point, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, we only have these three individuals throughout the series that we really see. So
with that, all the way down that rabbit hole about what wolves are in this world, how wolf brothers are connected to them, aka that they dabble in that or immerse in that telepathic connection wolves have, and can potentially lose or find themselves along a spectrum of humanity versus wolfhood.
Right.
What about wolf brothers versus dreamers in Tel'aran'rhiod Riyadh?
Yeah, now we're getting to the
good
stuff,
I'm just hard cutting to another hot take.
No, that's fine. And I think this will probably kind of wrap us up a little bit as well. Well, I mean, we see, and I believe it's Towers of Midnight, right? That Perrin encounters dreamers within Tel'aran'rhiod Riyadh, one of them being Egwene, and she's shocked to see him there. He's shocked to see her there because they have not run into each other in the dream world at this point. I do think
you're talking about dream walkers.
Yeah, dream walkers,
not dreamers.
Hold on.
Although interestingly, Perrin, who's not a dreamer, like he doesn't have prophetic dreams apart from Tel'aran'rhiod Riyadh. Yet when he's in the wolf dream, when he's in Tel'aran'rhiod, in the sense of what he calls the wolf dream, I don't know if that's a different mode of being in Tel'aran'rhiod or just a nomenclature. He actually has prophetic visions, like they open up as windows before him. Whether this is an early bookism of Jordan wanting to prophetically foreshadow and not having nailed down all his mechanics, or
Anyway, he runs into them, all these dream walkers, in Towers of Midnight, and they're sitting there slinging weaves at each other, having an actual fight in Tel'aran'rhiod Riyadh,
like with one power.
Yeah, and he's instantly teleported there as he can do, and someone's shooting balefire at him, and Egwene notices, and she's like, Perrin, and he looks at balefire, and deflecting palms. He doesn't actually raise his palm. He just thinks about it not hitting him, and it curves out of his, like literally is shooting at him like this and curves around him and then back on its correct path and hits the wall behind him. And she was like, how did you do that? And he's like, only a weave. It's super soft in this regard. This is one of the softer elements in the Wheel of Time of like how it works and what the rules are. This is not like, it's not like channeling, which is within the context of the story very well defined about how it operates, but how things operate in Tel'aran'rhiod for whether they be Dreamwalkers or Wolfbrothers is never clearly defined, other than you need a specific amount of willpower to do things, and those with stronger wills can do crazy things.
Yeah. To your theory about the one power existing or not existing in Tel'aran'rhiod, like string theory, there's no conclusive evidence to validate or disprove it.
Mm-hmm.
So it is what it is.
Oh, wait, there may be notes out there that I don't have access to. So if that's
that's fair. Okay, so your credit at least has more potential than string theory.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who has access to RJ's notes and can spend hours and weeks at a time going through them, let us know.
Or can pin Brandon down and offer to trade Magic the Gathering cards for information.
Oh, I could offer to trade some cards.
Oh, okay, we're down.
I don't really want to,
though. In all fairness, Perrin had just shown up on the scene of this battle.
Mm-hmm.
Egwene thinks that he just naively shows up accidentally and wants to protect him. So she wraps him in a weave of air,
mm-hmm.
and Perrin is like, this is the dream. And just blows his way out of her weave.
Yeah.
So that kind of blows her mind a little bit. So Perrin had just been put in the frame of mind that the one power, like everything else in Tel'aran'rhiod, mm-hmm. is just something to be manipulated.
Right.
And then he sees Balefire being woven or cast at him, and like you said, he just bends it because he presumes it to be no different than anything else in Tel'aran'rhiod,
mm-hmm.
and so it is.
Correct.
This battle, this is the battle where that fuels the argument: is Perrin a more powerful? Is a wolf brother
mm-hmm.
generically more powerful in Tel'aran'rhiod? Do they have a greater control over Tel'aran'rhiod than
just
a Dreamwalker?
Your average Dreamwalker? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think they're grossly overgeneralizing, because even if Perrin were definitively stronger,
mm-hmm.
that doesn't naturally extend to every wolf brother.
Correct.
They're conceivably wolf brothers weaker and Dreamwalkers stronger
mm-hmm.
than our two in this example.
Yeah,
so you
almost
can't generalize
like you would,
it.
Right, almost like you would assume people strengthen the power. Kind of deal.
Yeah.
Well, and then on top of that, like how much of Perrin's strength is derived from his Taviran nature, right? Like that's another soft system that we're not really pinned down on. And I mean, all we really know about Perrin's Taviran nature is that it does seem to make people more willing to follow him. But I do think that it drives Perrin to have a stronger conviction, both in and out of Tel'aran'rhiod. Like he has very strong. When he makes a decision, he sticks to it. He sticks to his guns, right? Like he doesn't.
Yeah.
If he's conflicted, he backpedals a lot. But once he has made his choice, he sticks to it. And I mean, that's an example of, like, he said he would go through with the White Cloak trial, which people feel like is whatever. Whatever your feelings are on it. I thought it was okay. It didn't really bug me like it bugs some people, but some people absolutely hate that. But that's an example of him. He's made a decision. He made a promise, and he sticks to his promise. Right, like he sticks to what he said he would do. I think. Yeah,
I think his stalwart character contributes.
Right,
and Sanderson is on record. He's on record saying that it's a false comparison to try and power scale Egwene mm-hmm. and Perrin relative to each other.
Right.
His comment was that much of Perrin's mastery comes from very instinctively acting. in
like a wolf
in Teller and Riyadh. Like a wolf.
Like a wolf.
Yeah. Like a wolf. So that strong instinct imposes reality very powerfully in Teller and Riyadh. Whereas Egwene has vast nuance of knowledge and complexity of the behavior of Teller and Riyadh.
Right.
So, where people always want to do a head-to-head, versus thing in a very simplistic comparison, Sanderson's point was the circumstances of that head-to-head would completely define who came out on top. There's no definite one is stronger / better than the other.
Right. Ultimately, this is kind of a continuation of last week's episode, a little bit, where we talked about Teller and Riyadh, and I think we touched on Dreamwalkers a little bit more than we touched on Wolfbrothers, because we just felt that we had a lot more to unpack in a separate video with them, because they have a little bit more outside the world of dreams than, internal, like we touched on what they could do a little bit in the world of dreams, so we didn't touch on any of their abilities external to it. So it's kind of why we wanted to do today's video, and just get a little bit more on them and talk about what they can do and can't do. So, examine the 3 guys that we have examples of within the series, and the kind of the facets of how Wolfbrother can, I guess, go if you are one. So,
my conclusion is that if I had golden eyes and could talk to wolves, I would not be ashamed of that.
Well, I mean, that's like one of those things. It's like whenever you have friends that are always telling you how awesome you are and how much they like hanging out with you, and then you just don't believe them, I think everyone sometimes has those feelings, right?
Yeah. I mean, in all fairness, in modern America, we have no cultural aversion to wolves. They're just cool predators that are fascinating. Right. Whereas in the Westlands, there's a strong aversion and fear of wolves because they're evocative of the predatory parts of nature that are not friendly to you.
Right. Thanks for coming by to watch the Gleemen here and listen to us ramble. As always, thanks for watching and listening.
Yeah. Hang tight, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Peace.